I never imagined that my life could take such a dark turn. Everything seemed perfect. My new marriage, my dreams of a beautiful home, and a future that seemed filled with promise. I was walking on air, blissfully unaware that beneath my husband's charming smile and our newlywed happiness, something sinister was brewing. It all started one ordinary evening when I overheard a conversation that shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. There, in the hushed tones of the phone call, I heard my husband speak to someone in a way that sent a chill down my spine. The words were cryptic but unmistakable. "The deal's done. We'll use the bar as a front. We can't back out now, not after everything we've invested." Little did I know, my husband had a secret, a dark side to his personality that was hidden behind the facade of love and ambition. What started as a dream to build a perfect life together turned into something I could never have predicted. Was he the man I married? Or had I been blinded by my own hopes for a glamorous future? Suddenly, the lavish dreams of a beautiful house and a life of luxury seemed hollow. The reality of our financial struggles began to reveal a truth that would change everything I thought I knew about my husband, our future, and the life I thought I wanted. I had always been a dreamer, but I never imagined my dreams would lead me down this path. At 28, I had just married the love of my life, Alex. We were a perfect match, or so I thought. Alex was charming, ambitious, and loving. Our marriage felt like a fairy tale, and I couldn't help but envision the beautiful life ahead of us. As we discussed our future, we began planning to buy our first home. Alex was determined to find the perfect place, an extravagant house that would reflect our success. I was hesitant at first. The house he had in mind was far beyond what I had imagined for us. But Alex assured me that we could afford it, that we were making an investment in our future, and that everything would fall into place. What made it all feel more secure was the promise my father made to help with the down payment. His support meant everything to me. Still, a part of me hesitated. I'd always been practical. How could we possibly afford such an expensive property? But Alex was persuasive, and his confidence made me doubt my own concerns. This was our future, after all. I ignored the small voice in my head telling me to be cautious. I believed in us, in the life we were about to build together. But what I didn't know was that beneath Alex's confidence lay secrets that would soon unravel everything I had ever believed. At first, I dismissed the small changes in Alex's behavior. Everyone gets a bit stressed before a big life change, right? But as time went on, I began to notice a growing obsession in him, a fixation on wealth, status, and luxury. His once humble demeanor seemed to be slowly replaced by something more aggressive. Late nights at the office turned into late nights with his business meetings. I couldn't help but wonder what he was really doing. The man I had married was becoming someone I didn't recognize. It wasn't just the late nights that made me uneasy. It was his growing obsession with money. Alex began to talk more about investments, flashy cars, and extravagant vacations. He would browse luxury home listings late into the night, eagerly pointing out million-dollar properties as though they were within our grasp. He no longer seemed content with the simple life I had always imagined for us. The excitement of a new home began to feel less like a fresh start and more like a dangerous obsession. I told myself it was just the pressure of the wedding, the excitement of our new life together. After all, wasn't it normal for a man to want to provide a great future for his family? But deep down, I began to question whether the things he wanted were what I truly wanted. The gap between the life we'd dreamed of and the life we were living seemed to widen, and every day I saw Alex drift further away from the man I had married. Then came the big house dream. What started as casual discussions about a new home morphed into something all-consuming for Alex. He became fixated on finding the most expensive, extravagant house he could. Houses I had never imagined ourselves living in. I could see the excitement in his eyes whenever he talked about these properties, and I felt a pang of anxiety in my chest each time we looked at houses that were far beyond our budget. We began house hunting, and with each viewing, Alex grew more determined to push our limits. I found myself standing in these grand homes, unsure of how we could possibly afford such luxuries. The mortgage payments alone seemed impossible to me, and every conversation with Alex about the house's price tag left me feeling more uneasy. It felt like we were losing touch with reality, swept up in a fantasy of perfection. I struggled with the internal battle. Was I being too practical? Did I not want to live the dream life my husband so clearly envisioned for us? I had always been grounded, and the idea of sinking our savings into an oversized mansion made me anxious. But the more I voiced my concerns, the more Alex dismissed them. "This is our future," he would say. "We'll make it work. You'll see. This house is the key to everything." The turning point came when my father offered to help with the down payment. His support should have been a relief, but instead, it seemed to embolden Alex. It was as if he saw the opportunity to go all in on his dream without any hesitation. My father's money only made Alex more determined to find the biggest, most expensive house we could get, and my doubts seemed to fade in the face of his unwavering confidence. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. It was a sunny afternoon when everything changed. We were touring yet another lavish property, one that seemed to shine with every polished surface and towering ceiling. Alex was already talking about the next step: inspections, contracts, and paperwork. But something was off. As we stepped into one of the rooms, the real estate agent, a woman in her mid-30s with a cool demeanor, suddenly pulled me aside. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "You need to be careful. Your husband, he's not who you think he is." I froze, feeling the blood drain from my face. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. She looked around nervously before continuing, glancing back at Alex, who was distracted by the grandeur of the property. "I know it's hard to believe, but he's involved in something dangerous, something illegal. You need to get away from him before it's too late." My mind raced, unable to process what she was saying. What was this woman talking about? My husband? A criminal? She seemed sincere, but could I really trust her? Was she mistaken, or had I missed something all along? My eyes flitted nervously between her and Alex, wondering if he could sense the tension in the air. The agent's voice dropped even lower. "He's involved in a drug trafficking ring. He uses his connections to launder money through these properties. I've seen it before, and he's too deep into it now. You need to leave before things get worse. If you don't, you'll regret it." I was speechless. The world seemed to stop spinning around me. The person I loved, the man I thought I knew, was a part of something so dark and dangerous. How had I not seen the signs? How could I have been so blind? My stomach churned, and my thoughts became a blur of confusion and disbelief. Could this woman really be telling the truth? The agent's words echoed in my mind long after the conversation ended. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of Alex, the man I married, wrapped up in criminal activity, haunted me. Was it really true? Could my husband be a part of something so sinister? I couldn't shake the growing dread in my chest as I replayed every moment with him. The late nights, the obsession with money, the new lifestyle we were both suddenly chasing, it all seemed to fit, but it felt impossible to accept. The next day, I met with the agent again, desperate for more answers. She was reluctant at first, but I pleaded with her, needing to understand how she knew so much. "I've been working in real estate for years," she began, her voice steady but filled with caution. "I've seen shady deals and illegal transactions happen. Your husband, he's involved in a network, and he's laundering money through these properties. The people he associates with, They're not just businessmen, they're criminals. Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. The more she explained, the more my mind swirled with disbelief and fear. She described how Alex had been seen meeting with individuals who were known to be involved in drug trafficking, how he had used his properties as a front for these transactions. The agent even showed me photos of Alex in meetings with some of these people, and I felt my stomach drop. I couldn't breathe. Every part of me screamed that it couldn't be true. But the evidence was right in front of me. The man I loved, the man I trusted, was a criminal. My thoughts spiraled out of control. Could I confront him? Would he admit it? Could I trust the agent? Or was this all part of some elaborate lie? As I stood there, torn between the life I thought I knew and the horrifying reality that was unfolding, I felt completely lost. The life I had envisioned with Alex, the dream of our future together, was crumbling before my eyes. Could I even go back to him after this? Could I live with the truth? The weight of the decision was too much to bear. The night after meeting the agent, I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that lingered in my chest. Alex had been out late again, and the minute he walked through the door, I felt the tension thick in the air. He smiled at me as if nothing had changed, but my heart was pounding. "Long day?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though every nerve in my body screamed to confront him right then and there. "Yeah," he replied casually, brushing his jacket off. He didn't seem to notice the way my eyes studied him, searching for the truth, trying to read between his every word. The weight of what I had learned still felt too heavy to fully grasp. I could barely keep my thoughts straight as I sat down across from him, feeling the divide between us widen with every passing second. "I met with someone today," I said, testing the waters, hoping that he might offer something that would give me peace of mind. He raised an eyebrow but didn't seem too concerned. "Oh? Who?" "The real estate agent. She said something strange." I trailed off, watching him closely. His eyes flickered for just a moment, but his smile didn't falter. He leaned back in his chair, his expression calm, but I could feel the subtle tension in the air. "What did she say?" His voice was smooth, too smooth. "She warned me about you, about your dealings," I said carefully, trying to gauge his reaction. I didn't want to accuse him outright, but my heart was in my throat. His laugh was short and dismissive. "Dealing? What are you talking about? You've been reading too many crime novels, darling. I told you, I'm doing fine at work. It's just the pressure of everything we're planning. You're just stressed." I felt the manipulation in his words, but part of me still wanted to believe him. The calmness in his voice made me second-guess the warnings I had heard. Was this all just my imagination running wild? Or was there truth to what the agent had said? He was so convincing, and yet I couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling that something was terribly wrong. Despite Alex's calm dismissal, I couldn't shake the truth the agent had revealed. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but I was terrified of what would happen if I acted too hastily. If I confronted Alex directly, what would he do? How would he react? Would he deny everything and convince me I was just overthinking? Or would he get violent? I couldn't take that chance. I spent the next few days in a whirlwind of confusion. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I couldn't sit back and pretend everything was fine. The life I had built with Alex, this dream of luxury and happiness, was all a facade, and I was slowly waking up to the nightmare behind it. I knew I had to take action, but the thought of confronting him head-on filled me with dread. My safety, my future, it all depended on what I did next. I couldn't just let it go. That's when I made my decision. I would meet the agent again, without Alex knowing. I needed more information, proof. This time, I would be more cautious, more deliberate. I would find out everything, and if it was true, I would have to face the reality of my situation. But the fear was overwhelming. What if Alex found out I had been meeting with the agent? Would he turn on me? The emotional weight of what I was about to do was crushing. I had to act, though. I had to take control of my own life, no matter how scary or uncertain it felt. The truth had to come to light, and I would make sure I wasn't living a lie any longer. The risk was huge, but I had no choice. I was ready to face whatever came next. The next day, I met with the agent in a small, dimly lit cafe, the kind of place where secrets could be safely exchanged. My hands trembled as I waited for her to arrive, the weight of everything bearing down on me. When she finally sat across from me, her expression was grave, and without saying a word, she slid a stack of photographs across the table. The moment my eyes landed on the first photo, my heart sank. It was a picture of Alex, standing outside a bar, exchanging something with a man in a dark jacket. A deal. The second photo showed him in a different setting, looking around nervously, holding something tightly in his hand. It didn't take long for the truth to sink in. My husband had been involved in something dangerous, something illegal. The agent watched me closely, and I could see the worry in her eyes as I flicked through the pictures. This is the proof. I didn't want to get involved, but your husband. He's in deeper than you think, she said quietly. I felt sick, betrayed. How could I have missed the signs? I wanted to scream, to confront him immediately, but my mind was racing with questions. Should I go to the police? Could I even trust them? Or should I confront Alex, unprepared for how he might react? My stomach twisted as I realized there was no easy way out. But one thing was clear. I couldn't keep living in the dark. I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and danger. I knew what I had to do, but the fear was unbearable. Still, my resolve began to harden. Whatever happened next, I would face it head on. I didn't have the luxury of time. The evidence was undeniable, and I could feel the pressure mounting. I knew I had to confront Alex, but as I stood in front of the door, my hands shook uncontrollably. What if he denied it? What if he got violent? Would I be able to stay calm? When I entered, Alex was sitting on the couch, flipping through his phone as though nothing was wrong. He glanced up as I walked in, his smile faltering when he saw my expression. Everything okay? He asked, his voice strangely calm. Too calm. I didn't waste any time. I placed the stack of photographs on the table in front of him, watching his face as he looked at them. I know what you've been doing, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I know about the drugs, the trafficking, the lies. For a moment, he didn't say anything. His eyes darted from the photos to me, back to the photos again. Then he laughed, a low, nervous chuckle, but it didn't reach his eyes. This is ridiculous. You're imagining things. These are just... I'm not imagining anything, Alex, I interrupted, my voice sharper now. These are real. You're involved in something terrible, and I can't stand by and pretend like everything is fine anymore. His face twisted in disbelief, and then anger. He stood up abruptly, knocking the chair back, and I felt a chill run through me. You don't know what you're talking about, he yelled, his fists clenched at his sides. You're making a huge mistake. I stepped back, instinctively, my heart pounding as his voice grew louder. You have no idea what I've been through to get us here, and now you want to ruin everything? His eyes were wild, but it was the next moment that made my blood run cold. He lunged forward, grabbing a rod-like object from the shelf and swinging it toward me. I froze, fear gripping me completely. His face was contorted with rage, and I knew in that instant that he wasn't thinking straight. Alex, stop, I screamed, but it was too late. The door flew open, and in rushed the police. They had been waiting just outside, ready for the worst. The officers quickly subdued him, one of them grabbing his arm and twisting it behind his back. "You're under arrest," the officer said, his tone firm. Alex stopped struggling, his breath ragged as he was handcuffed. His eyes met mine, wide with shock and fear, and for the first time, I saw him for what he truly was, a man caught in his lies. "You're making a mistake," he spat, but it was too late. The police didn't hesitate, and with one last look at me, they led him out of the house.
The moment he was gone, I collapsed into a chair, the adrenaline fading and leaving only the numbness behind. My heart still raced, and I could feel the weight of everything that had just happened. But in that moment, as the silence engulfed the room, I knew that it was over. There was no going back now. I had finally confronted the truth. As I sat there, watching the police escort my husband out of the house, a strange sense of relief washed over me. The tension that had been building up for weeks, the fear, the uncertainty, it all seemed to dissipate in that single moment. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe. The man I had once loved, the man I had trusted, was finally being held accountable for his actions. But as the officers drove away with him, my relief was tinged with fear. What now? What would happen when he got out of prison? He had already proven how volatile and dangerous he could be, and now that I had exposed him, I couldn't shake the thought that he would come after me once he was released. The thought of retaliation gnawed at me, a constant anxiety that I couldn't escape. My parents were by my side, reassuring me that I was safe. They had already started taking extra precautions, including installing security systems and staying with me more often. The police had assured me that they would be monitoring the situation closely, but the feeling of being hunted, of being watched, lingered. In the quiet moments, I couldn't help but wonder, would I ever be truly free from this nightmare? It felt as if my life had been shattered and that there was no way to put the pieces back together. But the one thing I did know was that I had made the right choice. My safety, my future, these were things I had to protect, and no matter what happened next, I couldn't let fear dictate my life. Months passed and I found myself adjusting to a new reality. My ex-husband was serving time for his involvement in the drug trafficking ring, but the emotional toll of everything that had happened weighed heavily on me. I still couldn't believe how much had been hidden behind his charming smile, the lies he had woven so effortlessly. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, replaying every moment of his betrayal. It was as if the past had carved itself into my memory, and I couldn't escape it. But despite the trauma, I knew I had made the right choice. I couldn't allow myself to continue living in fear, trapped in a relationship built on lies and manipulation. I had chosen to stand up for myself, to choose my own happiness and safety over the toxic love that had once seemed so promising. The support from my family was unwavering. My parents never once left my side, and I found comfort in their constant presence. They reminded me daily that I wasn't alone, that I could move forward and rebuild my life. It wasn't easy, and the process of healing took time, but I slowly began to see a future for myself that didn't involve him. I also made the difficult decision to cut ties with my past. I knew I had to distance myself from the life I had shared with him, no matter how painful. It was the only way I could move forward. My ex-husband might eventually be released from prison, but I refused to let his actions continue to hold power over me. I decided to focus on my own growth. I enrolled in courses, found new hobbies, and started seeing a therapist. Each step was an act of reclaiming my life, one that I had almost lost to a man who didn't deserve my trust. Though the scars of the past would never fully disappear, I knew that my future was in my hands. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that I had the strength to overcome it. Years have passed since that dark chapter in my life, and I've finally found peace. I'm remarried now, and for the first time in a long while, I feel genuinely happy. My second husband, Mark, is everything I could have hoped for: kind, patient, and truly respectful of me as an equal. He's not perfect, no one is, but his love is sincere, and that's what matters the most. Looking back, it's amazing how much I've grown. I've learned that trust isn't something you should ever give away easily, and relationships aren't about what someone can do for you, but about mutual respect, honesty, and support. Mark doesn't try to control me or hide things from me. He treats me as I deserve to be treated. With him, I feel safe, loved, and heard, something I never experienced with my ex-husband.
The lessons I've learned over the years have reshaped how I view myself. I no longer doubt my worth, and I've come to realize that I don't need anyone's approval to be happy. I don't need to settle for less than I deserve, and I certainly won't stay in any situation that compromises my well-being. I've rebuilt my life, piece by piece. Every day I am reminded that the storm may have been painful, but it was worth it to reach the calm. My new life is full of hope, and as I look ahead, I'm filled with excitement for the future. The person I am now is stronger, wiser, and more confident than ever before. Looking back on everything I've been through, I've learned that sometimes life doesn't give us the answers we want, but it does give us the strength to keep moving forward. The pain of my past still lingers in small ways, but I no longer let it define me. The journey I've traveled, escaping a toxic relationship, finding my own strength, and learning to trust again, has been hard, but it's shaped me into the woman I am today. Through it all, I've learned the importance of trusting my instincts and not settling for anything less than respect, love, and honesty in a relationship. I know now that I deserve happiness and peace, and I'm no longer afraid to seek it. Sometimes, running away from danger is the first step toward a better life. The pain might linger, but it doesn't last forever. Life after the storm can be brighter, and I'm living proof that you can rebuild and find happiness once again.